Welcome to East End Community Housing. I'm Christina DeSanti, and this is my co-host, Michael Daly. And our guests today are two local, well-known, long-term business owners, Scott Rubenstein of East Hampton Indoor Tennis and the Clubhouse, and Mark Smith of lots of places, Rowdy Hall, Nick and Tony's, Coche Commodore, and Town Line Barbecue.
All the
La
best,
Fondita.
all the best
Yes,
restaurants.
yes, and La Fondita.
Yeah.
Welcome and thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
And Honest Man Catering.
No more.
Oh, no
No.
more? Oh.
That left
the
with
the
COVID.
staffing. Oh,
That
okay.
left
I
with
thought you were
COVID.
saying with the staffing.
Is that right?
So I too am a long-term business owner, and I've seen over the years the changes in the labor force, and most of it is due to the lack of affordable housing. I think we pretty much would all agree on that at this point. So I'm just curious also how you have seen it change in your many years, because like for us, I know we used to have, college kids used to come out and rent houses, and they were your summer labor force. You had local people who worked as a second job or a full-time job. And there was really, 25 years ago, it really wasn't an issue so much getting, whether it's full-time or part-time or seasonal. Everybody was here working second jobs. Those people, to me, a lot of them are gone and have moved away. So I'm wondering, like, what you see as the evolution, and do you think there's a way to turn that around?
Well, there's certainly been an evolution. I think back when you were referring to, there's been a number of things. The complexion of the workforce has definitely changed. Back in the day, there wasn't an issue for labor. Every summer, the Irish
Right.
seems like a bunch would come over and, housing really wasn't an issue. There was rental housing in the market, and there wasn't the code that, we have now, which basically says only 4 unrelated people can live in a house, regardless of whether it had 6 bedrooms or 8 bedrooms or 5 bedrooms, only 4 people. So the code has definitely, I think, affected it.
Because you used to be able to come out here as groups.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
And rent, and
Yeah.
that was a large part of the seasonal.
And it was somewhat affordable. When I say
Right.
affordable, it might have been high, but if these kids came out, they were making tips and they were actually making good money. And
Sure.
Right.
Now, I don't know about you, Scott, but we go out and look for a GM or a position of that nature, and I think we pay a lot of money, but $80,000 to $100,000 depending on experience. But even at that, they can't afford at $100,000 a year to basically live out here.
Right.
With housing being a big chunk of that.
Right.
But getting back to your question, so the workforce has changed. It's when, we basically have a predominantly Latino workforce now. Great people, hardworking people. We're facing challenges there. We basically have a service economy out here, whether it's building, painters, landscapers, all depend on the same pool of people to support their businesses. And it's, depending on what happens with this immigration policy, we could find ourselves as well as the rest of the country, but particularly here where there's really nothing, there's no manufacturing.
Right.
Right.
So it's
All
all about
service.
service
Yeah.
and retail, and the ripple effect, if there's mass deportations, could be devastating on
Could I just want to follow up with that, with you, Mark. Are you seeing any of your workforce in like a real state of panic or anything right now with
There's a
what's being
heightened,
talked about? in
yeah,
terms
there's
of
a heightened
immigration?
sense of,
Yeah.
there's people are showing up for work and
They are,
everything,
okay.
and but there's definitely an undercurrent. People, I've heard in the schools, the kids are really concerned about it, coming home and not knowing if their parent might be there or not. So generally, it creates an anxiety for people, which is
Right.
never good. But we haven't seen people not showing up for work because of it, if that's what you're asking. So.
We lost 3 employees that were born here, but were concerned that
Yeah.
DACA. They went home, their parents took them home trying to figure out the papers. came up, said, Scott, we're so sorry, we have to leave.
Is that right?
But to your question, the pricing has gone crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. We rented a house in 2019. It was our third year renting the same house. 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath for $17,000 in Springs. That was normal. That was normal. And you still had to subsidize.
For your employees, you had,
For our employees. And we still had to subsidize the employees.
right,
But it was normal. 2020 comes, COVID, I look like a rock star. I'm in that house at 17,000 and I put the money down in November.
Right.
Following year, be my 4th year, I go back to the landlord, $50,000. You sign the lease.
They got it.
I wasn't even gonna consider that price.
Sure.
right,
So we own 3 staff houses. Made a huge mistake. In 2016, we sold 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
4-bedroom and 2 4-bedrooms to help build the clubhouse. So we still have 3, but if I had it over again, if I knew then what I know now.
right, now you have
I
no
would
employees
go
to work it,
forward.
right.
Who knew? It wasn't a problem, but this is the pricing. They price these local people out.
Right.
And you can live in Hampton Bays, you can live in Manorville and say, wait a second, why do I have to travel all the way to East Hampton? There are nice restaurants
Yeah.
here. The
Right.
price points are higher than they used to be, and those are nice jobs. So they're not making the trip. They don't
Right.
want to get it pulled over, spend the money on gas.
Mm.
That's
You know,
And the
and-
traffic,
Yeah.
it's it's an hour and a half now to Hampton Bays if you hit it at the wrong time of day, in the summer.
And we were talking, before we came on the air, Scott and I, and, if you're a small business owner, restaurant, retail store, whatever it is, it's one thing to be able to have to go out and finance your business. Rents in this area are really expensive, you have inventory, you have employees. Whoever thought that one of the expenses you'd have to consider is employee housing?
Right.
Right,
And when I say employee housing, I'm talking about like a 2-bedroom, 1-bath that start at $1 million.
Right.
right.
We're not talking about a 3 or 4-bedroom home that's in really great shape and you don't have to invest a lot of money. At $1 million,
Right.
you're buying a house that I'm not the type of person who would wanna put somebody in a place that's not clean and safe
Of
and,
course.
so you're looking even at $1 million and, of investing probably another 150 into that.
Yeah.
Right,
And unfortunately, I know in our business, in the restaurant business, it's a low margin business. It's not like we're making
Right.
15, 20% profit margins, it's single digits. So to be able to run your business, do everything to support that business, some of which is, we have a pretty good benefits package as it relates to, what are you doing to retain employees? What do you have to do to retain employees? I mean, we offer 401ks, we offer 2 weeks paid vacation. You can only work 5 days in a row with 5 days with 2 days off.
Right.
I mean, we want to attract people to our industry, as if it was a job like a teacher or a civil servant. And I think you have to walk the walk as well as, tell people, yeah, we want you to make this a career, but you don't have insurance, you don't have a 401k, so.
Right.
right,
When you throw all those costs in,
Right.
they're, for a small business owner, I mean, Scott and I are lucky that we have, I guess, maybe bigger places, certainly, I don't know the structure of a club. I know my golf club was able to go out and buy 5 houses because they have 400 members that they could just assess.
Right.
right.
But you're a small business or a business like
Yeah.
mine, you can't necessarily afford to go
We
out.
can't be
And-
assessed.
Yeah.
We can't be assessed anymore.
Yeah,
We've got to be, we're like the piping plovers. Okay, take care of
Yes.
us. Do not let us
Right.
become
Yeah.
extinct.
Absolutely.
Because
Right.
we will become extinct if you don't take care of us.
Right,
And, everything Mark is saying is true, the price of housing. But then there's the other side. We have 2 tenants that work for us in a staff house, a 3-bedroom house, 3 people, 1 in each room, $1,000 a month. Where can you get that? 2 baths, 3 bedrooms, and I think for 87 cents an hour more, they went to work somewhere else.
Oh
It
my
was a better
goodness.
job. I
wow,
said, but they don't provide housing at $1,000 a month. No, they have no housing for us, but then maybe it's not a better job.
Right.
I have 401k,
Oh, wow.
we do 400 a month towards medical, pay everything, spread of
Right.
hours,
Right.
overtime, we don't play any games
Right.
with people, 6 people can come in, them and their friends, 30% off food, beverage, half price bowling, make it a fun place for yourself. And these guys will move out, and I'm told it's gonna take me a year and a half to get them out.
Oh, wow,
Right,
because
so
they're
they
not leaving.
can't-
So
They don't,
now
they
I
won't
can't evict them, and they
leave.
won't leave, and they're working somewhere else.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
I did have one business, and I'm gonna mention him, Simon over at Maidstone Arms. 3 of my guys left midsummer. They told my manager, we're not moving out. Tell Scott, we're gonna leave sometime mid-September to go back to Florida, and he won't evict us in time.
Wow.
And I called him up and I said, listen, I hate to whine to you, but your employee shouldn't be in my employee housing. He said, I agree. He said, who are you talking about? I told him the guy. I said, yeah, I met him yesterday. I said, the only thing, they could stay for the weekend, but I really think they should get out. He goes, Scott, I agree with you. My employee shouldn't live in your employee housing. And I'll have him out by the end of the weekend. And he did, put him up in his place.
Wow, good for him.
Stayed there. Good guy, and I much appreciate it. But this is a struggle. It's enough running a business,
Yeah.
having to play these games of chess here.
And
Yeah.
when you do your P&L for a new business or a new restaurant
Right.
or for a new, you don't expect to have housing costs in that, you have your cost of goods, you have your cost of labor, you have your depreciation, amortization, all of that, administration, but having to have housing in there changes the whole game, right?
Well, actually, if you're building a new, if you're starting a new business, you can put it in there, because now you know.
Right.
The problem is, our businesses are pretty mature businesses, and when we started it, that wasn't a line item.
Right.
Right.
So as profits have gone down over the years, because rents have gone up, although we're lucky to own most of our properties, but labor has gone up tremendously, cost of goods, your food is
Yeah.
going up.
Yeah.
So it eats your profits, and now, here you are 25 years later, and we have to put in there $1 million, and you don't necessarily have the cash, so you have a mortgage, so we gotta put
Right.
another $3,000 to $4,000 a month on top of all this.
Right.
If we wanna continue to employ people.
Why do you think that situation exists, that you as business owners on the East End have to take housing into consideration for your employees in order to run a successful business? Why do you think that's not just
The pricing,
an effect of, why is that such a
Why
problem?
isn't the community taking care of it
why
itself?
hasn't the community
because
taken
they haven't
care
been
of it?
affected yet. It hasn't hit them. They haven't gone to a restaurant. Well, they do, but there's not enough service,
Right.
and they get beaten up.
Because you've had to cut back hours
Right,
and
we have to
days,
cut back
right?
Hours and days. This is Sunday night, we just tell them, we have a jam night, they go to a bar and order themselves. Actually, I sent Paul Freed over to you, who runs our Sunday night music. He was talking about a good deal. I said, Paul, best deal indoor, Coach A is doing $29, price fixed, 3-course meal. And they're nice enough to say, come a little early, sit at the bar, take advantage of our happy hour liquor play. And he went over, said it was a great meal and it was great value. But that doesn't bring employees into town to work for you.
Right.
It just takes care of the people that are here. But these are the things we're doing just to keep the staff busy.
Right.
We do, tonight is a $25 burger, a pint of beer, 4 chicken wings, french fries, hamburger, bacon, if you choose, for $25. I mean, that's a
At your
decent,
place?
at our place. It's a
Okay, we'll be there.
decent price. So we've got to jump through hoops, we have insurance, everything has gone up.
Yeah.
And I don't think the rest of the community gets it. They look at us as having multiple properties or a big property. We're both mom and papa businesses.
Right.
Absolutely.
We-
They walk in the summer and they see, a waiting list,
Right.
and basically, the hospitality, the restaurant business out here, you do well for 4 months,
Yeah.
and you hope you make enough in those 4 months to
Right.
take you through the other 8
Live
months.
like a squirrel,
Right.
yeah.
80% of
And-
your income is done in 4 months.
And we also,
You found that too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
your
absolutely,
business.
yeah.
and we're also part of the community. We're not, when I say we, Scott and I, we're not
Absentee owners,
investors, we're not absentee owners, we're not a restaurant that comes out here, opens for the summer, closes, reopens next year, different staff, we're
Right.
part of this community, we see people, when I'm shopping in Stop and Shop or at the hardware store, I bust their tables, so part of the reason we stay open 7 days a week is also for the community.
Right.
I mean, there's other reasons, you know, to hire a staff every year becomes problematic and is even more problematic. So, you know, you have to be imaginative and aggressive in terms of promotion and things like that, and,
We're
I
still
always
not
hear,
yeah.
you know, the complaint I always get is, well, you should be just, you know, building your own housing and you should, you know, and then you see, you know, people that are trying to do that, you know, there's some golf clubs and things that are trying to put housing on their property because they do have the space. And then the community comes out against them anyway. So, you know, we're sort of held to a different standard, like we should be solving this community-wide problem for ourselves. But then when you do try to put something forward and and do that, you know, you get backlash and they wind up killing your project anyway.
We all have pluses and minuses with our property. I'm not on a main highway, Main Street, Frank Kevin Bowles is right on the water, and so on. But I have a big property in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, you do.
And we have the space to put in affordable housing. We actually have the building built. We have the
I
septic
do,
and
you've
approved.
taken me in there and
You've
I've seen it.
it.
So tell us a little bit quickly
So,
about
so we have a
the
10,000
process
square,
you've been going through for like 10 years now, is it?
10,000 square foot building. We want to take 5,000 square feet commercial space. It has a great rent roll over the years, but I need housing. The Board of Health has approved us for 10 employees. Don't need any variances. Trying to work with the town. Now, I haven't worked with Kathy yet. I adore her as a politician. I think she sees the big picture. She just gets it. And I have a call to Kate Rogers who handles Wainscott to walk through it with me. But we're hoping to say we are willing to give away 5,000 square feet of space for housing. And decent housing on property. They're gonna be here 5 days a week anyway, maybe 5.5. So now they're not traveling back and forth. We can
Right.
feed them at the clubhouse. We have showers there. We have everything on property. No neighbors. I have ARF.
Right.
Used to have the gun club, ARF, the old gun club, and the airport.
In the airport, right?
So what has been the problem to date? Why have you been
Because that really
unable
makes
to-
sense,
So
you know?
not mentioning names, one
Okay,
person
don't.
said, well, you know the problem, you're the only one in this position that can get this because your property is so unique. I said, okay.
Okay.
So what?
I don't get to walk in traffic in the village, I don't get to
Right.
waterfront
Well, what was
traffic.
the intimation? That it's not fair to the other
It's not
business
fair to your
owners?
businesses. So we're at a hearing, and they said, what about this young lady with the horse farm? I said, if she wants to give up 5,000 square feet of income producing property to build housing.
Right.
And he does, and she does, and they do, and you get 10 properties to do this, you now have 50,000 less square footage of commercial space. Traffic back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, however they operate, all these cars, you have employees. They're gonna make sure their employees do the right thing. They're not staying up to 2 a.m.
Sure.
with parties and playing volleyball and doing soccer or basketball or
Right.
screaming bands. They're gonna control it.
Yeah.
This is your best landlord, is the guy on the property,
Right.
you know.
Well, we are in a new day. East Hampton has, announced since Peter Van Scoyac, all hands on housing. Kathy, all of the town board members are really good. I'd like to believe that you can get that through in the near future, and I really hope you can, because I think it's a great idea.
It makes sense. It's a
Yeah.
very sensible ask.
Regardless of what anybody else has anywhere,
Right.
it would be good for you and it would be good for your business to have that.
Well, we go back to a 300-person camp, which I'm approved for.
Right.
How many cars are going back and forth, and buses and kids, using the septic system and the groundwater? There's 100 people upstairs and 10 downstairs, and I'm downzoning my own property,
Yeah.
you know.
Right,
I
just so
don't think
that
you
you
should
can
have to
have
Housing.
housing for your employees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're giving up, a significant amount of rent
Significant amount.
to do that
we're
also,
happy
for
to
the
do it.
commercial rent.
Happy
And it's
to-
not just our industries, I mean, it's teachers. We have a new medical facility that's beautiful and built in East Hampton. They're
Right.
not opening because they can't hire people who can afford to live out here.
Right, everybody's crossing their fingers that when they do open, it runs.
So, to Scott's point, it'll change when it starts impacting the community in a bigger way. And it started to, and I
It
think
already is, isn't
the
it?
0.5% tax that stays in the
Right.
municipality that sells the property is a start.
The Community Housing Fund, which, by the way, Mark and Scott, both of you were very supportive business people for when we ran that campaign in 2022. Mark, you got people together to donate funds to the campaign, and Scott, so did you, and you held some sessions, information sessions at the clubhouse, and we appreciate that. So it's time for that to start having some positive impact for
Absolutely.
you as
Right.
business people.
I almost got kicked out of my own place. This couple stood up and said, we don't want affordable housing. Now, we moved here in 1969.
We don't want to.
Affordable housing,
Okay.
yeah. They didn't want it. And we moved here in 69. There was a fisherman next to you with his boat there and this, nobody cared.
Right.
Right.
What you came out here for, to be in the country, now if a guy has a work truck there, you're calling the police on him.
Mm.
So they said they don't want it, they're concerned. Again, if I'm a landlord, I'm protecting affordable housing. But I said to them, what you should be concerned about is when there's nobody here to mow your lawn.
Right.
When there's nobody here to clean
Well,
your
but that's
pool.
when it'll be
when
addressed.
the area changes.
Yeah.
That, you think it's gonna change because there's affordable housing down the road? No. It's gonna change when you
Right.
can't go to a restaurant and so on.
But don't you think it has impacted us already? I mean, what are we waiting for? What's the solution?
Oh, it's
What-
impacted. I mean,
what
I don't
has
have
to
any
happen?
children,
Yeah.
but I'm
Oh,
sure
it's-
Christine
yeah.
and Scott can speak to it. I mean,
Yeah, I
you
agree.
raise a family in an area that you would hope you can retain, the family unit.
Right.
Mhm.
But, kids can't, kids that grew up out here, the majority of them can't afford to live out here. You grew
Million
up
and a
in
half for a home that I wouldn't really want them to live in.
You want to become a teacher in the schools that you grew up in and sort of give back to your community.
Right.
You
Right.
can't afford. You
We
want to
can't
become a
afford to live here
policeman
anymore, yeah.
in the community which you grow up.
Right.
It's tough. It's really
Even if
tough.
you are a policeman and a teacher and you are both have good, stable, full-time jobs with really good salaries, to buy a starter house at $1.5 million, you need to be earning between the two of you $250,000 a year
At least.
to carry the mortgage and everything else, because everything else out here is expensive too. So, I think we've gone over the edge of where it's no longer feasible.
And it's because it affects the community.
Yeah.
What is a community? Right now, people are coming and going so quickly, it's hard to develop a community. A community is a place where, you grew up in, and there's stores that you went to as a kid, that your kids, I mean,
Right.
we've been blessed at Nick and Tony's to celebrate 37 years, and one of the things we
Wow.
used to do is the check presenters, we used to give the kids crayons, and then we'd laminate them, make them the check presenters. And for a period of time there, we had people coming into the restaurant, kids that check presenters were made when they were 5 years old, and now we're bringing their kids there. Those are the things that
Right.
build community.
That's cool. That's cool.
And so the effects of housing and all this stuff eats at a lot of this.
A
Which
lot
is
of people say, putting affordable housing will change the character of the neighborhood. Well, I say
We
that
are
it's-
affordable housing.
it's
I am
the-
affordable housing at this
It's the
point.
characters in the neighborhood that also make
Right.
up the character of the
Right.
neighborhood. And as we lose local
Absolutely.
people, farmers,
Right.
as we lose fishers, our heritage industries is fishing, farming, tourism, and the arts.
Absolutely.
Where would Jackson Pollock find a place to live today if he came out here, right?
It's-
And he was able to come out here
Right.
50 years ago and settle in Springs and
today
create
his neighbors
world-
would be horrified.
Right.
But Christine, you said your house is affordable housing, right? But soon as you leave,
Right.
it's no longer affordable
Right.
housing.
Well, no, I'm not literally in
No,
affordable
but
housing. I mean that I
you're in a
literally
house that you
could
could
not
afford.
buy my own house
Exactly.
today.
Exactly.
I-
So
And
what do
my
we have to
children
do?
cannot afford to buy my house, if I decide to go.
What do we have to do?
It's a hard solution. Look, on a commercial level, it's, one of the reasons East Hampton Village has changed, because as landlords have come in there, we live in a capitalist environment, and whatever the market could bear, if I'm a landlord and, I could rent to, a guy that can only afford to pay me $5,000 a month versus, Prada that, I could get
Right.
$50,000 a month for, what are you gonna do?
Right.
And unfortunately, you can't, I don't know how you can legislate that. We could try to be, there's the CPF fund I keep talking about, and, there's millions and millions of dollars that there's certain covenants, unfortunately, that go along with that money. But how great would it be if we can take that money and have the village buy one or two commercial real estate, stores, lease them back to a locally owned family who wants to open a business that the townspeople can actually use, like a clothing store that's affordable or whatever.
Shoe store,
You know,
dry
they can
cleaner,
charge,
or
they
whatever.
can charge a reasonable rent
Mhm.
rather than taking that money, buying some property in Northwest Woods and, you know, I mean, look, it's important to preserve our land in that respect, but we have a bigger problem with the things we're talking about,
We
We have
so.
human resources that aren't being addressed, and my question to the people that are saying, you know, they're constantly against clearing the land, which I think we all agree is not a great thing to do. But yet, if we begin proposing that instead of clearing the land, we're gonna put 10-story skyscrapers up because we have human beings who need housing, they're just gonna complain just as much. So pick your poison.
For real job. Listen, whenever the village, you know, I always, my friends we grew up with, and to your point, like with 69, it was farming, fishing,
1 minute left.
and tourism.
Yeah.
But, you know, local people sold their buildings to people for a lot of money, and God bless them, they're
And you
retired.
can't blame
They
them for doing
suffered
that.
back
Yeah.
then, what the winter was like.
Right.
And now, they made a lot of money, the new landlord has to make his money back.
Right.
And-
Same
and-
thing with
and-
housing.
Yeah.
We're
It's
all
a free
cogs in the
country.
wheel, and,
Same for
yeah.
housing, but they could let businesses do a little bit more,
Relax certain codes.
relax certain codes.
Right.
You know, listen, I'm afraid sometimes I have 5 tennis pros, am I gonna get in trouble? And
Well,
I know
during
that's not a
COVID,
crazy
during,
house.
during COVID, the town actually, you know, let us do outdoor dining. You know, they relaxed that code, and
Right.
one of my hopes was that through that process, they would realize that, hey, some of these codes that we instituted to prevent outdoor dining and things like
Right.
that, there was never a problem during all of COVID with
Right.
any of it. Let's
Travel
relook at the
all over
code.
world.
Right.
I just
And
came
know,
more
back
people
from,
here than ever, more
Yeah.
cars and people, it was never a problem.
all over
Right.
the world, there's outdoor dining, and
Right.
it's really enjoyable. you
And
know.
that's only one aspect, but.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
Real quick, I wanted to ask a question about the trains. I hear, oh, you really need to, you know, use the trains more. Instead of affordable housing, just, you know, get your employees on the train. But for people in your industry, for the schools, it's working fairly well because it's normal daytime hours and, you know, and we have the bus that takes them the rest of the way. But is that feasible and does that work in when you have late night employees and early morning employees? Is the train of any benefit increasing that to your businesses?
From what I understand, the schedules at the times we would need it, sort of doesn't work for people.
School
Okay.
teachers, office workers.
Right, it works for some, but not for all.
But it is an
We're
important.
actually out of
It is important.
time,
It is
Yeah,
important.
I mean, we support it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Right.
they'll come to our place for lunch.
but it doesn't work, but it doesn't work for every business.
Maybe expand it so that
Right.
it could also handle some off-hour staffing as well.
All right, I hate
So-
to cut you off.
Yeah, we're rolling. How are you looking forward to this year, this season?
I can't wait.
You have a good feeling about it,
Yes.
or Mark and Scott? Yeah.
I have a good feeling. I
Do you?
think for all the wrong reasons, we're getting a lot of calls from people from LA who coming out, wanna join the tennis club. I'm
Yeah,
not saying they're gonna eat dinner at my place,
I
but
know.
they wanna join the tennis
Right.
club,
okay.
so there may be an influx of,
Right.
new crowd.
Mark, what
I
about you?
agree. I mean, you know, one of the fortunate things about doing business out here is that you can usually count in the summer being good for business, because there's just more people than there are seats.
Right.
Mhm.
So, you know, we always look forward to the daffodils.
Make hay when the sun shines, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, when the sun's out.
Well, thank you.
Well,
both of
thank you
Thank you
guys
both
for
for,
coming, yeah.
I wish we had an hour to have this
I know.
conversation. 'cause we
Yeah,
need-
it's just fun to talk it out.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll do
Here.
it again.
Yeah, we'll have you again then, maybe.
Yes, here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you,
for joining
and
us.
thanks to LTV for making this possible. We appreciate it.